start recording the session. Okie dokie, artichokes. So, y'all, 1.2 talks about integers and order of operations. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about integers. So, y'all, the first thing we call this set the natural numbers. The natural numbers are just the counting numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth. The whole numbers, y'all, have the counting numbers with addition of the number 0. Okay, so integers, y'all. Integers are the whole numbers, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth, but also the negative numbers, right? So, y'all, an easy way to think about positive numbers and negative numbers. Positive numbers is how much money you have, and negative numbers is how much money we owe. Okay, so if Andre loaned me $20, right, then I'm going to have a negative 20. Why? Because I owe that to Andre. I owe him $20, right? And if I give Andre $5, we're still not cool because I still owe him how much? I'm sorry? 15, right? So because I owe him 15, it would be a negative 15, right? So y'all, think about positive numbers is how much money we have, and negative numbers is how much money we owe. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about, y'all, is how do we know when numbers are smaller or bigger? Okay, so, okay, less than is the same thing as smaller, and greater than is the same thing as bigger. Y'all, numbers that are further to the left on the number line are smaller. Okay, so if say right here is 0 and -1, -2, the numbers that are further this way are going to be smaller numbers. So if I look at the first one, -4 and 3, is -4 bigger or smaller than 3? Is it to the left of 3 or is it to the right of 3? So look, here's -4. There's the number 3. Is -4 to the left of 3 or is it to the right of 3? To the left, so it's going to be smaller, right? Okay, what do y'all think? -1 and -5 is negative, so in case you can't see it, boom, there's -5, right? Is -1 bigger or smaller than -5? What do you guys think? Bigger, right? Boom, it's going to be bigger. Okay, -5, everyone agree is going to be smaller than -2. What about 0 and -3, y'all? What do you think? Is 0 bigger or smaller than -3? What do you think? So if I said, hey, we get out of here at 5:20, let's go to Whataburger, let's go get something to eat. And we go when we place our orders, and you're looking at me and I'm looking at you like, who's going to pay? And you say, hey, sir, I don't have any money. And I say, well, I checked my balance today and my balance was -3. Not only do I not have any money, but I owe the bank $3, right? So you actually have more money than me because you don't owe anybody and I still owe the bank. All right. So again, y'all, positive numbers, how much money we have, negative numbers, how much money we owe. Let's take a look at the first problem here. 8 plus -9. I have $8, but I owe you 9. And I run into you in the hallway and you say, hey, give me the $9 that you owe me. And I said, well, here's 8. Are we cool or do I still owe you money? What do you think? I have 8, I owe you 9. Do I still owe you money or are we good? Still owe. How much do I still owe? 1. So it's a -1, right? Why -1? Because I owe it to you. Okay. Y'all, let's take a look at the next one here. -12 plus 18, right? I owe you $12, but I have 18. And you run into me in the hallway and you say, Omar, give me the $12 that you owe me. And I said, okay, here we go. Because I have 18, aren't I still left with 6? There we go. Okay. Y'all, the third one here says -6 plus -8. -6 means I owe you $6. -8. Silly rabbit, you lend me 8 more. How much money do I owe you now? Anyone know? How much money would I owe you now? Well, you have already borrowed 6, and then silly you lent me another 8 without paying. 14, right? Very good. And because I borrowed it, that's what I owed you, right? All right. Yo, let's go down the list and let's see what else we got. So, y'all, when we talk about subtracting numbers, subtracting really means we're going to leave the first number alone, and then we're going to change the minus sign to a plus sign, and we're going to change the sign of the second number. I'm actually going to start off down here, y'all. I'm going to start off with this problem, okay? Look, the first number, I'm going to leave it alone, okay? The second right here, y'all, that minus, I'm going to change it to a plus, and then, y'all, I'm going to change the sign of the second number. Look at that second number. That second number is in parentheses, and it's -2, so it becomes a +2. Now, let's do the bottom part right here. -8 plus 2. I owe you $8, and I only have 2. If I give you the $2 that I have, are we cool, or do I still owe you money? Anyone know? How much would I still owe? I agree. What, 6? There you go. Awesome. Very good. Y'all, I'm going to play this game every time. I'm going to leave the first number alone. Look at the first number. The first number is 3. I left it alone. It's not bothering you, so don't mess with it. We're going to change that minus sign right there, y'all, to a plus, and then we're going to change the sign of that number. Used to be a -6, now it's a +6. Y'all, 3 plus 6, that's just 9. Okay. Let's take a look at the next one. Look, the first number, I'm going to leave it alone. We're going to change that minus sign to a plus, and then we're changing the sign. Let's fix this a little bit. We're changing the sign of the second number. So look at that number right there, y'all. That number is a 3, so it now became a -3. Okay. Now, let's take a look at what we got right here. -5 plus -3. I owe you $5. You lend me 3 more. I owe you 8. Right? Okay, one more time. I'm going to leave the first number alone. We're going to change that minus sign to a plus, and then we're going to take the sign of that number. It's a +4. We made it a -4. Okay? 7 plus -4. I owe you $4, but I have 7. I'm still left with 3. Now, y'all, a lot of times people ask, Omar, how do you know if the right number, the number on the right, if it's positive or if it's negative? How do I know that? Look what we have right here. Do you see how that number's in parentheses and there's a negative sign? That means the opposite of it's a positive. If you look at this number right here, inside parentheses, it's got a negative sign. The opposite is positive. If you look right here, there's no parentheses. That's a +3. So we made it to a -3. Does that make sense? Same thing right here. Look, that's a +4. What did we do? We put parentheses around it and made it -4. So if there's no parentheses around your number, think about it as being positive, okay? Now look, I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to go through each of these questions. Remember, y'all, the first number, we leave it alone. That 12, that minus becomes a plus, okay? Look at my 15. Did it have parentheses around it? No, right? So it's a +15. So look, y'all, I'm going to put parentheses and make it into a -15. Okay, 12 plus -15. I owe you $15, but I only have 12. What do you think happens? Am I good, or do I still owe you money? What do you think? I owe you 15, but I only have $12 in my pocket. I still owe you 3, and because I owe it to you, what kind of 3 is it? Negative, right? All right, y'all, let's do the same thing with the next one. The first number, boom, we leave it alone. We change that minus sign to a plus, okay? Let's look at our second number. Does it have parentheses around it with a negative on the inside? That means it's negative, right? So we're going to change it from a -7. We're going to change it to a +7, right? Okay. I owe you $4 and I have 7. And you say, Omar, give me the $4 that you owe me. And I do. Are we still going to be friends? Yeah, right. Because I paid you all the money that I owed you and I still have 3. All righty. Let's take a look here at the next one, y'all. 18. Remember, we don't mess with the first number. We're going to leave it alone. Boom. We're going to change that minus sign to a plus. We're going to look at our second number. It's in parentheses with a negative. So we're going to change it to a positive. Okay, 18 plus 8 more, y'all, should just be something like 26, right? Does anybody remember what do we do with the first number? Leave it alone. Good. -6. Awesome. Very good. Look, y'all, that minus sign is going to become a plus. Do we have parentheses around that 6 right now? No. So we're going to put parentheses and make it negative. So look, y'all, -6 plus another -6. You lent me $6 today. When I see you on Wednesday, I ask you again for another $6 and you lend it to me. I would now owe you how much? 12? There we go. Okay. So, y'all, the reason why I teach people to do it this way is because I've asked you, what's 7 minus 5? Everybody's like, oh, I know that's 2. But I've asked you, what's -18 minus -6? I don't know. But if I can learn this process, I can do every subtraction problem that I have, okay? All right, let's scroll down a little bit further. And, y'all, we got some rules for multiplying integers here. Okay, so when we're multiplying integers, y'all, a positive number times another positive is still positive. A positive times a negative is a negative number. A negative number times a positive number is negative. And a negative number times another negative number is positive. All right, let's take a look. Notice, y'all, we got 2 negatives. 2 negatives, when we multiply them together, is going to give us a positive. 6 times 2 is just 12, right? 8 times -5, -40. -7 times 5, boom, -35. 3 times -6 times -5. So, y'all, you got a couple options here. I would say, look, if I multiply those together, isn't that going to give me a positive 30? And then anybody know what 3 times 30 is? What's 3 times 3? 9. So that's going to give us 90, right? Okay, good. Y'all, we have some rules for dividing integers. The rules for dividing integers are the same rules for multiplying. A positive number divided by another positive number is still positive. A positive divided by a negative is a negative number. A negative divided by a positive, also negative. And a negative divided by another negative is positive. Okay, so let's take a look. We got a -24 divided by a +3. So a negative divided by a positive is a negative, and 3 goes into 24 8 times. Okay. Let's see. Let me scroll down. Okay. We got a -72 divided by a -8. A negative divided by a negative is positive, and 8 goes into 72 9 times. And then finally, y'all, we got 8 divided by -3. That should just be a -6, right? Okie dokie. So, y'all, the last part that we have here in 1.2, today's going to be a short day, y'all. The last part we have here in 1.2, order of operations. let me ask you guys a question. Oh, come on, pen. Boom. Did anybody learn order of operations like that? PEMDAS, did anybody ever learn that back in school? Okay. Y'all remember what the P stood for? Parentheses. Okay, look, y'all. Number one says, let's do all the stuff in parentheses. We could have brackets, we could have fraction bars, but that's what it stands for. Okay, good. What does the E stand for? Anyone remember? Exponents. All right, look, there we go. Number two, we're going to do stuff with an exponents. Does anyone remember what the M and the D stood for? What did the M and the D stand for? Multiplying and dividing, right? Y'all, I want you to look at step number 3. Step number 3 says we're going to multiply or we're going to divide, but we got to make sure we follow the order in which they occur from the left to the right. Y'all, I don't know if I told you this on the first day of school or not, but I failed math in 7th grade, in 8th grade, in 9th grade, in 10th grade. I finally got better in 11th. But when I learned PEMDAS, the way we write it out, MD, I always understood multiply first, no matter what, and then divide. But the real rule says we got to make sure we go in order from left to right. So if I see a division sign before multiplication, I got to do that, okay? Same thing with adding and subtracting, y'all. We got to go in order, okay? So look, let's take a look at this first problem, and let's work it out together. Okay, step number 1, do we have any parentheses? No. Okay, let's scratch out 1. We don't got to worry about it. Step number 2, do we have any exponents? No, tampoco, so we don't got to worry about that. Do we have any multiplying or dividing? Yes, we do. Okay, so y'all, the multiplying occurs, boom, right there. But the first number I see is the number 5. Write it down. Why? It's there. It's part of the problem. 5 plus, what's 4 times 9? Anyone know? 36. Good. Now, we did our multiplying, dividing. Let's do our adding, subtracting. Anybody know what's 5 plus 36? 41. And you're done. Okay. Yo, the one thing I want to point out, I'm writing every step. I know this was a super short problem, but even though the number 5, I wasn't doing anything with it first, I wrote that down and I put the plus. Okay, look, let's take a look at the next one. We're going to go through really, really slow here. Okay, we do have parentheses, but the parentheses, y'all, are just that it's just like sort of the idea that we're multiplying here. So I'm going to leave that -7 alone for right now because I'm not really doing anything with it. But I am going to do that part. Now, we have 2 ways we can go about this, y'all. We can think about that as a -3 times a -4. What's a -3 times a -4? What do you think? Positive. Very good. Positive what? 12? Okay. Notice how I wrote the -7 first. Why? It was the first part of my problem. It's there. I got to write it down. Okay. -7 plus 12. We just did this a few minutes ago. I owe you $7 and I have 12. I have enough money to pay you, right? And not only do I have enough money to pay you, but I have money left over. How much? 5. There you go. Awesome. Very good. Okay. All right. I'm going to keep scrolling down, Charlie Brown. Let's take a look here. Whoa, buddy. All right. So here we got another problem, y'all. A lot of stuff going on here. In this problem, do we have any parentheses? No. Okay. Do we have any exponents? Let's do the exponents. Now, look, y'all, 3 squared. Remember what 3 squared means? It means 3 times 3. It doesn't mean 3 times 2. It means 3 times 3. What's 3 squared? 9, right? Okay. -8. I'm still writing the whole problem, y'all. -8 divided by, okay, look, we got another one. 2 squared. 2 squared, y'all, means 2 times 2. What's 2 times 2? Anyone know? 4. Okay. We still got it times 4 minus 20. Okay. We didn't have parentheses, so we could skip step 1. We had exponents, so we did it. Look, y'all, I wrote everything out. I'm not trying to do a whole lot of stuff in my head. I'm writing things out. My Next question to you, step number 3. Do we have any multiplying or dividing? We have them both, right? Which one comes first? As you go from the left to the right, what do you see first? Do you see times first or do you see divide first? So look, that's subtract. So I'm not going to worry about that. Isn't that divide? That's the first thing we see. Okay, let's write down the 9. Minus. What is 8 divided by 4? How many times 4 go into 8? 2. Good. Times 4 minus 20. Okay, y'all, we still have multiplying here. Let's do it. 2 times 4. Look, the first thing I'm going to write down, though, y'all, my number 9. Why? That's the first number I see. Minus. What's 2 times 4? 8. Minus 20. Okay, let's go left to right. What's 9 minus 8? 1, right? 1 minus 20. Remember what we said, y'all? Think of the first number. Since it's positive, that's money I have. This is money I owe. Why is it? Because I owe it? Because it's a minus right there. I have $1, but I owe you 20. And you say, Omar, pay me the $1 that you owe me, or pay me the $20, and I only give you $1. How much money would I still owe you? 19. And because I owe it, what kind of 19 is it? Negative. There you go. Yo, one of the mistakes that I notice people make a lot when they're doing order of operations is they don't write the steps down. I could not get from here to there if I didn't write stuff down. If I'm trying to do it in my head, it's just not going to work, okay? All right. Next question. We do have parentheses. Okay, so look, y'all. This right here is the inside of my parentheses, but the first thing I'm going to write down is the number 5. Why? I'm not doing anything with it yet, but it's part of my problem. Minus. Okay. Look at the inside of those parentheses, y'all. Minus 9, minus 5. I owe you $9 already, and you lend me 5 more. How much money would I owe you now? If I already owed $9 to you, and then you gave me another 5, how much money would I owe you today? What do you think? Somebody said it. 14, right? Very good. I would owe you 14, okay? Let's scroll down a little bit further, okay? Y'all, do we have any multiplying here? Right there, right? Doesn't that mean multiplying? So I'm going to do that before I do anything else. So I'm going to leave that 5 alone. Okay, look. Let's multiply those numbers. Y'all, you can use your calculator. Let me get it right here. I'm going to think about that as a negative 4 times a negative 14. And look what kind of 56 we're getting. Positive. Okay. And y'all, all I got is one last thing to do. 56 plus 5. Let me add 5 to that. Boom. 61. Now we're done. Okay. All right, y'all, that is the end of 1.2. Like I said, it's a pretty short section, okay? So y'all, let me do this real quick. Let me stop recording. Boom, there we go.